The St. John's Red Storm, they continue to win and are in first place in the Big East. Earlier this month, a new docuseries that focuses on the Johnnies and their head coach, Rick Pitino, premiered on Vice TV. It's called Pitino Red Storm Rising, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with the executive producer of the docuseries. His name is Tom Farrell. He's also the CEO of Workshop Content Studios, who's behind the whole production. Tom joins me now. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Dexter?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great. I'm really loving this series, and I'm just going to get right into it with you. And my first question is, what inspired Workshop Content Studios and Vice TV to create Pitino Red Storm Rising? Was it Pitino himself, the rich history of St. John's, or was there something else at play here?
Yeah, it was definitely Rick. I think it was a combination of factors that came into play here. One, the character that we have in Rick, such a strong personality with a really good camera presence. Then we also have a team that was preseason looking like it was going to be pretty good, and it has come to fruition here now. And then three, working with St. John's and the access they were able to give us and provide us to do our show makes for a perfect storm. No pun intended there.
Ah, I like what you did there. Perfect storm with the Red Storm. And you and I were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, right? It's just everything has to come together in a situation like this where you have the team playing so well, and now this team has been a top 10 team in the country at the time of us recording this, and it's just very interesting to see. And then you had great access, as you just mentioned, too, that folks can see from the first episode. Now, Rick Pitino, who's obviously the focus here, he's had a legendary career, sometimes controversial coaching career. What has it been like working with him so closely throughout this project? Did anything surprise you about him?
What surprised me most was how hard this guy works.
Hmm.
He works harder than anybody I've ever come across in business. I remember one day we weren't at practice with the crew, and he called and he wanted to know where we were. And of course, he told me we missed a lot of great stuff that day of practice. And I said, Rick, I had to give the crew a down day. They had worked 7 straight days, wanted to give him a day off. And his response was, obviously, they've never coached in college basketball before. So he is unlike any person I've ever met before as far as his work ethic goes. And you can see it translates not only this year, but across his whole career.
Yeah, and you could see that in the first episode, which we're about to get into right now, right? The first episode, The Rebuild, is set the stage for this season. It set the stage for what Pitino's been doing with this St. John's program. What can fans expect to see in these upcoming episodes, especially episode 2, which premieres on Tuesday night, called The Family? What can they expect to see coming next?
So tomorrow night, what I really like about that episode is that we do take a different look at Coach.
Mm.
And we were fortunate enough that he played Richard, his son Richard, who coaches at New Mexico, at the Garden earlier in the year. So we were able to spend some quality time with both Coach Pitino and Richard Pitino and see their different styles as they go about coaching their teams. And let's just say it's dramatically different. And I think we intercut the two styles in a way that's going to give the viewer an inside look, both on the court and off the court, at what type of style each of these coaches brings to the game. But at the end of the day, what I think you're going to see is what a family guy Coach Pitino is, which a lot of times you don't see because you just see the intensity of the coaching. But when he puts his arm around his grandson or he tells us that he loves his son more than winning, then it gives the viewer a whole different perspective of Coach.
I like this, and I'm intrigued to see that how it's not necessarily like father, like son, right? We might expect that sometimes in terms of family coaching trees, but that might not be the case. All right, so excited for episode 2. Now, St. John's, and you guys took on this project, right? They have not been a dominant force in college basketball for a long time. Can you and your production team feel the buzz and the excitement growing around the program? Because I definitely feel it around the city. But have you felt that when you guys have been shooting around NYC and around St. John's campus? Have you felt that at all?
19,812 people yesterday at the Garden. If you can't feel that buzz, then you won't be able to feel anything. You don't have a heartbeat because that crowd yesterday was so into this St. John's team. It felt like a Knicks game at the Garden. It had that type of electricity. And I think that it's only just starting. Like around campus, you can feel the buzz. Some of these kids are starting to get recognized when they walk down the streets of Manhattan, which is really cool for them. So, yeah, I see that rising on a pretty steady basis. And you know as well as anybody, once March Madness hits, it's just going to be like a meteor.
Oh yeah, can't wait for next month. And if St. John's hopefully still playing well, Big East tournament, and then beyond that, the buzz is only going to intensify for sure. Now you just mentioned the players there, Tom. They are at the heart of this journey, along with Rick Pitino. What has stood out to you about their personalities, their work ethic, and the relationship with Coach Pitino during this filming process?
It's interesting. Both past players we've talked to and present players that are coached by Coach P. And there's a common theme where a lot of them will tell us that Coach P, he's a pain in the ass, but he gets results. And that has been said over and over and over again. And he just wants to win. I think that's at the core of everything. And man, oh man, does this guy know basketball? And watching not only his players, but his assistant coaches absorb some of this knowledge is fun to watch. And it's been great for our crew to be able to sit there in a front row seat and watch this as he coaches players. He does these individual sessions with his players in the morning that I've never seen any other college basketball coach do. So even before they practice in the afternoon, he brings kids individually and one-on-one, different kids each day, and works on a specific skill set. So these guys are bought into the program, and they know that it's not the smoothest ride a lot of times as far as what he expects out of them. But at the end, like I said, results always trump everything else.
That is true for sure. One of the things I've seen, is that Coach Pitino has really talked about that. He's enjoyed this process with these players. He talked about this after the Marquette game, and I'm sure people will see this later in the series, just how much he's enjoyed coaching this team. And you can tell from what you just said there, just the work that he's putting in. Last thing for me, Tom, after working on this project, or continuing to work on it and seeing Coach Pitino's methods up close, do you believe that he can bring St. John's back to national prominence and make them a powerhouse in college basketball once again?
I think they're back.
Mm.
I think they are back, and I think he's going to be able to keep them back in the limelight in New York City and on a national spotlight. I mean, they're cracked the top 10 for the first time in decades. And I think that if you look at Coach Pitino's teams during the year, they continuously get better. So the future is pretty darn bright for this year and then beyond.
It is definitely bright, and if you want to see how bright that future is and how it's starting, check out Pitino Red Storm Rising on Vice TV every Tuesday. Episode 2 coming out this week, and the man behind it here is Tom Farrell, executive producer of the docuseries, also the CEO of Workshop Content Studios. Tom, this was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing more with this series and more work that you and your guys do. And I appreciate you taking the time to break down the series with me. We'll talk more in the future.
Anytime. It was fun.
Thank you.